Yeah, they see me on top and they get mad cause they can't top me. Got me running up the score when they even matter cause they can't stop me. Yeah, they see I'm trying to watch me and they trying to copy and it's looking sloppy. Yeah, we about to get it poppin', talking non-stop, can I get a copy? Yeah, they see me on top and they getting mad cause they can't top me. Got me running up the score when they... Make money, make money, make money, then you take money, take money, take money.
Hello and welcome back to KSB TV YouTube channel. This is Crypto Convos, and I am so excited for today because for the first time on the show, we are getting into Pulsechain. We have seen all the updates. Richard has the FOMO on all-time highs. We're seeing tweets like 95%. What does that mean? Is V3 upon us? What is happening? So the perfect guest that I thought of when I thought about this topic was our guest for the show today. And I mean, why not? RHMax. He has to be a RHMaxy, right? So gonna go ahead and bring him up. How are you doing? How is your day going?
Doing good, yeah. Day couldn't be busier, but I'm glad I could get on the show this morning. And yeah, it's funny you said you started talking about Pulsechain, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I've been talking about Pulsechain a lot more than I used to lately. Maybe because of the excitement of testnet v3 coming out imminent, so close, any moment. But yeah, glad to come on and talk with you about that. I've been really into PulseX lately. Been talking to a lot of people about that and doing some streams myself on it. So yeah, and you're correct. Definitely, I'm an RH maximalist. Although I know we'll get into it, but I can explain a little bit more than just the first layer of that kind of maximalism. So it should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. For the people out there who aren't familiar with your background, how you found crypto, how you became RHMax, let's hear your story.
Yeah, so as far as getting into crypto, I'd say around 2016, sometime through there. I remember was when Bitcoin was under 1,000. I remember that. Oh man, maybe I should buy a little bit. It seems cheap. I remember looking at it at the first time. I was like, $600. That seems cheap. This thing, it's got a. I knew it had some sort of potential. I didn't know it could, do what we've seen it do in crypto so far, let alone Hex and the stuff that's actually designed to go up. So. Crypto 2016, 2017, I believe I was at a party, and I think the story that always comes to mind is I heard a friend of mine was at the party, and he's like, "Hey, have you heard of this Richard Hart guy?" And it's kind of perfect timing for me because I just got into crypto. I was really just full steam ahead, just trading shit coins, just learning, just trying to figure out what the stuff's about. BitcoinTalk.org, like all over the forums, stuff like that. And I was like, no, I've never heard of this guy. Who is like, yeah, he says, the Ethereum's bad, blah, 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 all this stuff. He's a Bitcoin max. Okay. To me, so my background too is in technology, working in big tech and security engineering type stuff. And to me, when I looked at Ethereum, even at first glance before, I thought, what's wrong with Ethereum? It seems fine. It's world computer. It does have smart contracts, whatever. It does a lot more than Bitcoin. So why would he have a problem with that? So I went on his channel, started looking at his streams, and then I found that he was doing the self-help, self-development stuff. And I went through those playlists. I'm like, man, this guy's super interesting. Like I think I found like this kind of passive mentor, like somebody to teach me about crypto. It's like, this is great. So after that, it was just, I believe I've tried my best, at least the last 6 years of following Richard, to watch every single stream that I could, whether it's on his channel or some nascent podcast he did that he does never talk about again, or ones have been deleted. I've seen the ones I've tried to search for some that's been deleted before by other people, which is interesting too. So I've tried to consume as much content as possible from him ever since I started following him in 2017. So that took me on this journey of CFD token and then Bitcoin Hex, and then we got Hex.win. We got Hex.com. Oh my God, how much did that cost? We got Hex.com now. And just selling me on the whole product of, let's do a true trustless type of, CD product, a trustless yield, earn money while you sleep. And at first, I really didn't have a lot of faith in him as a founder because he never did it before. Like in the early days, it was like, I loved Richard back then, but it was like, I know you don't have any experience actually creating a coin. So I'm going to, I didn't go 100% all in back then just because I was like, I don't know, maybe this is just a one-time deal. Maybe it fails. Well, I didn't see the light as I've seen it the last few years for sure. And price go up will make that happen. Right. And then, trying to think. So from there, just ever since then, I've been kind of passive in the community, except for a year ago. That's when I think I don't know. I saw some tweet about local meetups and stuff. And I went to one with Valley Brand and some of the Washington people. And I remember going to the dinner and they're being like, "Oh, are you a streamer too?" I'm like, "No, I don't stream. I got Twitter and stuff, but I don't think I want to do anything like that." And then maybe 2 weeks later, I just got this idea in my head. I was like, I should start making content. Like, why not? I should start doing this. Like, I'm looking around me. I see all kinds of people in the community doing it. If I want to be more interactive and have utility, as Richard says, I should do it. And I think there's something I never talked about before. Actually, part of the story, I was trying to figure out a name for the channel. And I went through a few different ones. I need to find that document. I feel like every time I do this, like, create something or whatever, I'll have a document. I'll try to write down my ideas and kind of go through them over time and figure out what I like best. And I don't remember the previous names I had, but I should look that up because it'd be interesting. But eventually I settled on RHMax. And I think I went through like, okay, maximalism or whatever. I was trying to create something that could embody what I wanted to do, because my mission is to, I'm a maximalist for his ideals, because Sci-Vive, trying to change the world with true crypto, and just focusing on what actually works instead of this whole story narrative of whatever it is all the other crypto projects focus on. So I was trying to come up with how can I make a brand that I also don't want to focus on anything else. So I intentionally pigeonhole myself into the RH ecosystem because I don't want to be distracted by any other stuff. So I landed on RHMax, and then from there I was like, oh, I'll go by Max. And everybody knows that, and I started registering the Twitter and all the other stuff under RH Maximalist. So okay, it's all clear. It's like one whole positive feedback brand. And then from there it was like, all right, let's just go make some content. Let's like what I want to do. I remember my first stream with Crypto Kindness. He asked me like, what do you want to do with this? And I'm like, I think I just want to be a good interviewer. I think I just want to interview people and really understand about the products in the ecosystem and figure out like how they, help the blue chips, help Hex, help Pulsechain, and do that stuff. So that's what I focused on. It's been almost a year. I think my first stream was in May. So working on a year, and that's been my mission though. Like people are like, oh, why? And I guess the other part of it is like trying to bring a healthy form of maximalism too, not just like crush all the other communities, or I only talk about like Hex, or I only talk about Pulsechain. It's like, I think if I'm able to talk about the products that are positive for those blue chips, and talk about, again, Richard's ideals, talk about Sci-Vive with, SJ and anyone else wants to talk about, and talk about just health, wealth, wisdom things that he embodies a lot of those principles in a lot of the stuff he's talked about, especially his vintage videos, which I've clipped, and, you can look up Throwback Thursday coming out to 2025 to catch up on all the stuff Richard's been up to the last 6 or 7 years. But just to be able to talk about ideals, products, and things that are good for crypto, good for yourself, and grow in that kind of material. So that's where I think that's the most complete story I've ever told. So there you go.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're more of a RH principles maxi, as opposed to how we define it, or how the Twitter space, right, kind of defines this ideal of maximalism as the only thing that you can focus on is what you maxi in. So if that is RH ecosystem, then that is Hex, Pulsechain, Pulse X, and any outside conversations, kind of say you're not a maxi, but it's bigger than that. It's about the ideals, the principles that he teaches. So from your perspective, yes, I am 100% a RH maxi as well. Even though I do embrace, a lot of different projects, a lot of different ideals, but they all go back to the core principles that we've learned from his messages, right? So
Yeah, it's it's funny. I've had comments on both sides. I've had people leave comments like, "Oh, you're not maxi enough," and then I've had people comments of like, "Oh, you're I don't like maxi. Maxis are bad for the ecosystem." Blah blah blah. So I've had like this two-sided comments throughout the last few months too, which is to me, it's just if we ever had they're just comments, right? But if I've had a conversation with someone, I would explain like, look, you don't have to be a hex maxi, you don't have to be a Pulsechain maxi. For me, I define my type of maximalism as his ideals first, and then his products naturally come from his ideals. His ideals are sort of a superset of things. And then, like, what is your own individual mission? For me, I mean, and a lot of people maybe too, if it's financial freedom, if it's generational wealth, if it's in being an ecosystem that's fair, trustless, huge community around it, having those same values, to me, it only makes sense to minimize your mind share and your consciousness and your energy spending looking at other ecosystems. And I still do cross collaboration. I still talk to people from there, but the ones that I like and promote and do deep dives and stuff on, they're going to be within the ecosystem and stuff that again complements Hex and Pulsechain. So I love Hedron, Maximus, a lot of different projects like that, because I believe they provide that positive feedback loop for the blue chips. So I think it's healthy to support things like that. And I mean, RH himself has talked about those products. So it's like, I think that kind of feeds into this whole, logical maximalism of ideals type of thing as well. So, and just maximizing your opportunities in this ecosystem. Not everything's great. Not everything's, there's 125 different projects. Some of them are, they could be scams that don't know they're scams yet, depending on how you define a scam and all that stuff too. But there's a lot of good projects out there. And I think if you focus too much, if your focus is too narrow, even within the ecosystem, you're going to, there's some opportunities to support some products that can help the things that you really, really love, which, could be Pulse and Hex.
absolutely. So I think about that, and I want to just get your feedback on what you consider a part of the RH ecosystem, right? Because some would argue that anything that is going to be built on Pulsechain is a part of the RH ecosystem, where like my ideal, somebody messaged me this the other day, and for me, it's like if their project directly supports Hex, Pulsechain, or PulseX, right? So something like Hedron, Icosa, even the derivatives, Maxi, whatnot, to me, they all support Hex. Some of the projects like Power City with their aggregators, their cross chains, that's going to directly support Pulsechain, PulseX. But then you have these other projects like Texan, PulseDoge that are created by people in the community. They will develop on Pulsechain, so that makes them, supportive of that blockchain. But to me, not directly RH ecosystem. So what do you feel about that? The community created projects.
It's a great question. Yeah, there's a lot of gray area. So I had a tweet on this a while back, which was the ones that I would prioritize. So like number one, I'm trying to recall off memory, but number one is the positive price feedback loop. So that'd be like your Hedron, Maximus, like the things that actually lock up Hex for a long time, or they allow, they add features to the ecosystem, or they allow you to maybe sell it and not sell Hex, for example, they get liquidity, stuff like that. And then like there's tiers, right? I think that's how I would represent it. It's more tiers of like, okay, those for sure, love those things, great for the blue chips. And then you have utilities. So, maybe that's like liquid loans, maybe that's, Power City stuff, that stuff that helps the ecosystem be used better, provides features that are not natively available. They may help with reduced sell pressure by locking up coins, by, loans and or otherwise. But they do also have their own tokenomics, and implicitly they are going to take, how's the Dixon Piper put this, splitting buying power. Yeah. Ever since I heard him talk about that on stream, I was like, man, that is so meaningful. And you can apply that to kind of fine tune the way you think about things, because everything splits buying pressure. Even Hedron, even Maximus, you're not buying Hex if you're buying those, right? Just logically speaking. That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean anything like that. It just means, hey, there is a trade-off here. But you got to say, especially with those, if we're locking a bunch of it up and you're getting a better deal and you don't have to pay gas fees, there's a ton of arguments to make. So this could be like a huge dissertation on each of these projects of like how effective they are, where's the hopium, where's the like pure math part of it, of them being useful and utilities or positive feedback loops. So number 2, I would say utilities like that. And then number 3 is kind of like either unknown, or I would say maybe meme coins could be in there, because I mean, you even brought up PSLD and that whole ecosystem now that it's become, where do you draw the line between, okay, now people are spending time and consciousness and thinking about another project that isn't the blue chips, but they're providing this green field of people coming in. They love meme coins, they love Doge, they love Shiba, they love whatever, and now they have another thing to play with, and now they have all this whole separate ecosystem, which can bring a lot of people in. But how do you even measure that? So right. I think there's kind of like this who knows? It could be good, could be bad, but it's like a kind of unknown area. And then so you got that part, and then I try to break it down logically too, because there's all this emotional part of it too. No, don't tell me what to do with my coins. No, this is actually good because I believe it's good and I've invested in it. Now I need it to be good. There's this whole like thing with that too. So I try to keep that out of the evaluation. But anyways, that's 1, 2, 3. And then number 4, I would say, is coins that purely, they don't really contribute anything. The onboarding is not clear. The tokenomics and maybe there's no audits. Things just aren't clear about them. I mean, there's been projects that have been come and go in Hex community that some a long time ago, some more recent, that they either go to zero or founder runs away. You're in the Telegram one day and it just disappears. Like, whoa, what happened to the room? It's like deleted now, stuff like that. So that would be the tier of like how to evaluate those different things. And I mostly try to stay myself within 1 and 2. And then, if you're looking at 3, you can make a case for virality and meme onboarding and all that stuff too. But I think we're kind of early to even know that, because Pulsechain hasn't launched yet. So how do we know it's going to bring the economic energy in, or is it going to pull more people away than it brings in? There's a lot of things to think about. So there's a lot of gray area. I would put it like that.
Yeah. Very good points. So to try to steer us into our focal theme of today, Pulsechain, how do you explain Pulsechain to someone just completely new to the space, right? They may have heard of like the blue chips current, the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, but you're trying to introduce them to this new concept, this new idea, this new chain. What's your, let's say, elevator pitch for Pulsechain?
Well, there's a few you could use. I mean, the first thing that always comes to mind when I hear that is, what Richard says all the time: cheaper, faster Ethereum, cheap transaction fees, Ethereum's, I got all these problems and we're going to solve them. To me, I think that's the lowest common denominator. I know a lot of people kind of say that too, of yes, that's how you get people in the door, but how do you get them, how do you grow the network? How do you get the network effect? How do you get them excited about something? Maybe they don't even know that about Ethereum. Maybe they're like, I don't know, I use Ethereum like once every 6 months to do some transaction. Why do I care about, cheaper transactions? So I think one thing you could use is if you tell people, because if they know what, if they're tracking crypto prices at all, if you say it like, okay, imagine, what if you could buy Ethereum when it first came out? You don't have to say day one, you don't have to say the first year, just when it first came out at some point. And that, I think, in their head kind of triggers, whoa, that must be price must be much lower than today, right? It must be, because it went up to like $4,000 or $5,000 at one point, I think. I saw that on the news. So I think just one of the biggest things you can do is just say, hey, how would you like to buy Ethereum at day one? And then maybe they're going to ask, but that's that, this is Ethereum, why Pulsechain? Why should I trust that? Why should I put my money in that? And then you could point out, well, look at Hex, look at the chart of that. The founder who did this did the same thing with another project. It's been running, flawless uptime for 3 or 4 years. It did a 10,000x. Why wouldn't Pulsechain do the same thing? Pulsechain's his second project, which is he's got all those lessons learned. So maybe it's even better. So I think the Ethereum argument's pretty strong. Just the early kind of thing. I think that if they're more nuanced about crypto, maybe you talk about the OA in a positive way. Maybe you're like, in a neutral way, and then you kind of you tell them like why it's a good thing if you believe that. So do you prefer whales just dumping on your head that you will never know or speak to at any point, or do you prefer these benevolent whales, which we've seen in the ecosystem for Hex before, that we know have sacrificed for Pulsechain and PulseX as well? And do you prefer them to be there to lock up supply, to keep restaking, or at least, if nothing else, have a long-term hot time horizon where they're not going to dump on your head on day one? Now, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of wells who do that. It's not like this is a case against Pulsechain never dumping. It's just that, hey, we've seen these mega billion-dollar, God wells in the system who seem to have good intentions and have been our best friends so far. So do you like a community who has super rich people in it who don't like to sell? That seems to be good for price. That could be something for maybe the next level of crypto people. And then another one you could use for pretty much anyone is, hey, what kind of coins do you have on Ethereum? All those are going to be copied to Pulsechain. You're going to get a free copy on the new network. Now, what they're going to be worth, who knows? Some of them are going to be worth nothing. Some are going to be worth something. But if you got a lot of them, if you're a whale out there and you're getting a free airdrop, maybe you're incentivized to provide liquidity and make sure your token has value on this new network, which seems to have a lot of economic energy behind it, and could propel it to be around for a long time, which networks that are around for a long time, especially with this kind of community, tend to go up and to the right. So the airdrop portion can be used for pretty much anyone. But I think too, on the just lowest common denominator, one point that I don't think people make a lot out there is that cheaper, faster transaction fees or cheaper transaction fees, that's to get, it's almost like the carrot. I talk about like airdrops and stuff being the carrot to get you in the project, and may or may not be a good thing. I try to stay away from a lot of airdrops too, just because, again, I want to focus on particular projects in the ecosystem. But the airdrop of all these tokens is the carrot to be like, okay, come over, try it out, see what you think. Now, eventually though, the transaction fees, we want them to be expensive because that means the network has value. So maybe not in year 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but if we are still getting cheap transaction fees in year 5 or 10, that means Pulsechain didn't go to the moon, right? Like just by numbers, it means that Pulse isn't, if your transaction fees are still less than a penny a year 2, 3, or 4, 5, then you're like, it's not performing as well as the meme, at least. So eventually we want more expensive transaction fees. At first though, fantastic onboarding opportunity and a point to make, as well as airdrops.
Yeah, I really like those points. I really like the idea of showing the history of the community, right? The people involved in HEX are likely the same people involved in Pulsechain. You know for sure that the leadership is, you've seen the activity of, how he handles his bag if he controls the OA, or whoever controls the OA. We've seen the activity of the Godwell. So that speaks to the community that you're getting involved in. But then also, in addition to that, you have this big caveat of you don't have to do much. I think that's probably the issue that I get the most is, you want me to try Aave, you want me to try this new blockchain, but like, what all do I have to do? So kind of reducing some of those steps. Look, your portfolio's already here. That's free money. Come play with it. How much it is, I don't know, but it's there for you to go and give it a try at least.
Well, funny enough, it's so simple. It's confusing because people ask. I've seen it in chat. They're like, "How do I get my free airdrop?" And what do you say to that? You say, "Do nothing." And you're like, "What do you mean? What do you mean do nothing?"
Yeah, where's my claim button?
Yeah, like what? But really, where do you go from there? Do you say, "Well, you need to change this thing in your MetaMask"? And they're like, "Oh God, you already lost me MetaMask. I don't know what's So I think that's like a good point of how's the conversation going to go once we get closer to mainnet. Who's going to write that tutorial or that graphic that goes viral on Twitter that shows world's largest free airdrop? Here's exactly what you need to do, and you're not confused over it. So that's some work our community can do. I know it will happen, but that's something that's still a confusing conversation for people. It's so simple, but it gets confusing.
Yeah, as simple as RPC settings, right?
Yeah, RPC. Oh my God, no, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know. Just put my airdrop.
Absolutely. So then the other thing that Richard is creating that we're all super excited about is PulseX. So do you have to, in order to get into PulseX, do you have to start by explaining the difference between centralized exchange and decentralized? Or, are you just more so looking to explain to people that are already in DeFi world and like, hey, it burns. Like what's your pitch for PulseX?
Yeah, that's something that I haven't thought much about as far as, because Pulsechain is so easy in the way it's like getting an Ethereum early and free airdrop.
Mm-hmm.
So at the surface level, that one's easy. PulseX is kind of like, I think so, and this is a good point for just growth and network effect as well, because there's tons of people who they trade tokens on decentralized exchanges. They use Uniswap, they use PancakeSwap, they used 1inch and Sushi and all this stuff, but that's not the general public for crypto. It's not the general crypto people. Those are the DeFi staking people, or the people who really have gotten the weeds and somehow know how to use MetaMask to do all this stuff and all that. The more technical side of it, I guess you would say. So yeah, interesting. The pitch for PulseX, I think you do need to be a more advanced user. If I was talking to somebody about it, I think I would start with Pulsechain and then explain that, and then say, and if you're interested in yield farming or like making, how do you explain that to the average person too? I guess that needs some work. If you're interested in making money on your money, there's opportunities to do that with an application called PulseX that's running on Pulsechain when it starts. I guess you would go somewhere there. But so that's the general crypto person. That's gonna be a little harder conversation.
Yeah.
But especially if they don't know what Uniswap is, they're like, well, okay, none of this makes any sense to me.
Right.
But if you're going to explain it to a person who knows what Uniswap is, they know what PancakeSwap is, you could just say, hey, at least as of now, the details we have now, things could change. Things aren't out yet, but it seems like PulseX isn't going to change or change much at all, because I don't think Richard wants to delay launch anymore for that. He hasn't signaled that, at least. Fork of PancakeSwap, which is a fork of Uniswap v2, and they added a bunch of yield farming stuff. And then there's like a buy and burn, where there's always this pressure. It's manual, by the way. The buy and burn's manual. It's not automatic. It's not in the contract, but it could be automated. There could be bots and stuff doing it for us, but it still needs PLS to run the function. So there's that. So there's maybe a pumpamental for PLS too, because you need to do transactions to pull the trigger to do the buy and burn. And then the yield farming aspect too, if they're familiar with how Cake does it, and you get to earn these third-party tokens that will be given away. Essentially, it's like airdrops city. It's kind of like this distribution method for these projects to be like, oh, do yield farming, and you can earn these tokens, these special tokens, and join the pool and earn these limited time tokens, stuff like that. And then there's the LP providing aspect to the really advanced people who know how to do LP positions, where you earn incentive tokens. Some people call them dump tokens or reward tokens, whatever. And then if you hold PLSX, those holders can vote on which liquidity pools get to earn those different incentive tokens too. So there's a lot of gamification within PulseX of the different ways to earn different tokens, and the buy and burn is a feature that everyone loves as well. So I think that the conversation is easier with a more advanced crypto person, but for the GP crypto person, it's going to be like, it's going to be the most popular dApp on Pulsechain. Mm-hmm. I guess. Yeah. I think, I haven't quite come up with a great argument for why they should use PulseX yet, but I think there's going to be a ton of people who love the other dexes, and they're like, you know what, there's some good stuff going on over here. Let me get over here and see what's up. Yeah.
I mean, because you could, say that it's the DEX that's created by the same founder, but does that necessarily make it better than the other DEXs? I'm sure there will be other, DEXs with Pulsechain and all the different coins on Pulsechain available. So it's like, how do we speak about it in a way that shows people its value? So
you could just go ahead. I was going to say, you could go with that. I think that's a great way to put it. You could just be like, it's the founder's other coin, and the other coins are, and if you believe Pulsechain is going to do really well, why wouldn't the other coin do really well based on HEX? So you could just point to the founder and be like, it's his other coin, and then you can learn about it later. I think that's a good way to put it too.
Yeah. And I wonder, does any other DEX coin have like the features as far as like the buy and burn that PulseX has?
I haven't heard of them. I will say I haven't actively searched out to see if I don't think PancakeSwap has that, at least. And I would have to look at the other ones. I mean, it would probably be a Google of like DEX and then quote buy and burn and then see what comes up. But I don't think, I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to figure it out. I don't think so. Or if they do it, they're not a popular one. I would say, I don't think the most popular ones have that exact feature. I'll say it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the comments in the chat was pretty accurate. Let's see if I can see where it is. PulseX will be promoted by the numbers it will produce. So yeah, I think like he's saying, essentially PulseX will sell itself the bigger Pulse chain gets, right? They're like, the identities are a little cross, right? Like you hear about them at the same breath from the same person. It's almost like PulseX Pulse chain, like it's just one. So
yeah, a gateway crypto. It's have you heard of PulseX? Oh, you got to find out about PulseX now. You got Pulsechain, right? Oh, PulseX. That's next level. Yeah, it could be like that. Getting them into it based on relation. Yeah.
Yeah. So what like feature or function or project being built are you like most excited about that you're just like, I can't wait for this to launch so that I can play with this?
Within PulseX or within just the ecosystem?
Yeah, within the whole Pulse chain ecosystem.
What? I mean, I kind of start with, I can't.
PulseX.
Yeah, I think, I mean, with PulseX, I think the buy and burn is just genius. I mean, we can't say enough about that. I mean, it's just the biggest pump middle I've seen with something, and so that's fantastic. But I'm trying to think as far as things that have utility too in the ecosystem. I mean, the products like Liquid Loans, Power City, those two ecosystems that will, we're bringing a new meaning to never selling. Like this community, you don't need to sell your Hex now. You don't need to sell your Pulse chain now. You don't need to sell your PulseX now. It's just this fantastic. I mean, you can live off the yield. You can, take the loans and do the, not financial advice, none of this stuff, but anyone can take a loan and pay it back, based on whenever they want to, or not, or see how the market conditions are. There's gonna be products built upon these things as well. So I don't know. I can think the most interesting answer I could give is I'm excited to see what hasn't been built yet. I'm excited to see people build on PulseX, for example. Like I think was it, we got Power City doing the stable coin there too, and the lending, but also it had, the Pulse chain hasn't even launched yet. So we're talking about all these projects, the 125 plus, for example, that have just happened over the last 18 months or so. We just start hearing about them. I remember Richard streaming and being like, I know people who want to build on Pulse chain. I remember him saying that, and I was like, yeah, who, like the 3 or 4 people who are into this new thing. And then now it's like, oh my gosh, there's like literally hundreds, thousands of devs in the ecosystem. It's insane. So I think the thing that the most interesting thing I can be excited about is the stuff we haven't even heard of yet. Hedron, it's not even a year old yet, right? Like it's insanity. So I'm excited to see what else people are building on it. We got enough stuff that I could talk about that's already helping lock up coins and helping just make everything better and easier to use in the ecosystem. But I want to see what's next. Like I want to see the stuff that we haven't even thought of yet. That people are just gonna be like, all right, we're gonna start interviewing people about this new thing that just does this crazy thing that nobody ever thought of. So that's what I'm excited about for the rest of this year.
Just from playing with testnet V2B, I think I'm most interested or excited about the idea of the average user being able to provide liquidity. I think that for someone like me, right, I've been in crypto. I'm not any type of expert, but I've used multiple DEXs, PancakeSwap, Uniswap, all these different things. And I've never found it to just be easy to understand or easy to use, right? And when we got testnet, it felt like it was user friendly, when the people in the community are so knowledgeable and so willing to explain, that I was getting information from so many different ways. It made me feel like, oh, that's not something that just big bags do, right? In my mind, it was like, oh, that's like whale activity, dolphin activity, maybe. Like it really made it easy for me to say, oh, okay, yeah, I can match some USDC or whatever stable coin with my Pulse chain and do these types of things. So I think that the education level on the average user is going to increase by the ease of the front end that they're creating.
Definitely. I think there's so much. I'm tired of being early in crypto. Like we've been early for the last 6 or 7 years. I'm ready for next 10,000X, but it is not easy to onboard people and get them to do liquidity providing and even know what Uniswap is or MetaMask is. And it's just, that's the biggest barrier. Is like, that's what I hope, new projects that are coming too, maybe the fiat on-ramp stuff that 0x Coast is building can just get people to be like, where do I put money into coin? Click button, and then we're good. Like, you don't need to do anything else, like stuff like that. It is crazy. It's way too hard. And, but
yeah,
it can only get better. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So would you have, and like we said, not financial advice, but just thinking about it objectively, right? You're someone who is a RHMax, right? You want to have a little piece of all of his projects, both HEX, Pulsechain, Pulse X. Do you have any strategies as far as diversifying a portfolio between the three, like percentage based or anything like that?
I think it's hard to say right now because I think I won't start doing percentage basis until we get a launch and I'm able to see, okay, now I've got all my coins. I've got, this amount of PulseX and this amount of Pulsechain. And, of course I got my HEX as well. And then I think I'm waiting to like really put myself into that. I've got, long-term stakes and all that stuff too. But once everything launches, then I'll be able to step back and say, okay, where do I want to set up things for the future? Where do I want to do I want to do more stakes? Do I want to convert some Pulse into HEX? Do I want to do vice versa? And what options do I have for staking or burning or publishing or whatever it is in the Pulsechain side as well? So I think it's hard to say right now the positioning because I know I want all three of them, but I don't know what the right ratio is because I don't know what direction I'm going to point the coins into to really have that like long-term delayed gratification effect and be able to position myself with that. So it's one of those things too. People always ask like, oh, do you like Pulsechain or PulseX better? And it's like, do you like 2 scoops of ice cream or 3 scoops of ice cream? You're still getting ice cream. I don't like even if you like one over the other, you still get a lot of ice cream. So they all taste good to me. But yeah, as far as percentages, I don't know. I don't have a solid. If I had something solid, I think I would explain more about it. But it's more of I need to see the network launch. I need to see what products we can use. I need to see if the products fail or not. I think that's going to be a lot of it's wait and see. I mean, we love people building. We love them making products that represent the values of the ecosystem and solve problems for us. But there's audits, there's bugs that happen from time to time, and I think a lot of people are waiting to see if they're going to lock up millions of dollars of coins in systems that just launched. It's kind of it's always in the back of your mind, like, okay, you got to trust the code, you got to trust the contracts will work correctly, and we all hope it does. But I think there's going to be I think the best point I can make from that is like the first year or two, we could see more volatility than what we would normally expect in the long term. One factor of that could be people not trusting all the code that Richard's devs didn't write yet, just because they're like, let me see, let some other people test it first. Let me make sure this works, and then I'm going to lock up my millions and billions of dollars and stuff. So that could be a factor too that plays in the first year or two. So I think as long as you got all three of some sort, that's what I like. I like those 1, 2, 3 scoops of ice cream. They're all great.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough for me to just decide how to, especially in percentages, how to diversify just my HEX portfolio, right? Not even looking at Pulsechain and Pulse X, but just HEX, right? Because within my HEX, I may decide that I want this amount of Maxi, this amount of Deci, this kind of HSI stakes, which is still just more T-shares. So even that decision is so difficult. And then we start looking at, incorporating Pulsechain and Pulse X. I guess when I'm talking to my family members and they're saying, how do I decide or what do I do? I tell them just to look for the best opportunity. You really can't go wrong, in my opinion, in any of them, right? Because they all essentially have a capability of producing more yield. And for me, that's what separates my cryptos when I'm looking at cryptos, which ones can produce more of them. So like if you're coming in and like, let's say we get launched and Hex just goes to the moon, but you see some pullback on PulseX because it was the most sacrificed for, right? So these people are trying to diversify a little bit and go into Pulsechain and Hex. Well, maybe that's your opportunity to accumulate that bigger PulseX bag. And then you wait for the dips to come in Pulsechain, or you wait for the dips to come in Hex. So yeah, I agree. It's very difficult to steer anybody in any type of direction because I can't even define it for myself.
I think it depends too if you sacked or not, because if you miss the Pulsechain sack, the FOMO is going to be real, whether it's good decision or not. The FOMO is going to be real for a lot of people. So they're just going to want to get, I was talking to Top Gun HEXican yesterday, and he said maybe one way to quell that FOMO is just set aside $50 and then buy $50 worth of Pulse. That's what he was talking about. And you satisfied it. Now you have some. Don't like, because somebody asked a question like, should I go all in day one on Pulsechain? Like,
no,
I would not do that. But if you need to satisfy yourself, take $50, go spend it. Now you got, a million Pulse or whatever it is, and you're good, and leave it alone. Like that's like one way you could do it. So it depends on if you sacked or not. But for me, the way I would set it up is I don't want to trade. Like, I don't even want to look for dips. I know a lot of people like doing that. It's totally fine. I want to be the most hands-off crypto investor I could possibly be. And that's what I love about Hex. You lock it up, you earn yield, you look at it every once in a while if you want to, and that's it. And these systems, that's what I love about all the projects that are helping us in Pulsechain, be able to, lock it up and PulseX as well, and just not touch it. Save yourself from yourself. That's my favorite principle from Hex is other than the yield, obviously, but helping me not, when I'm tempted to make bad decisions or I'm tempted to sell because market bad and all this stuff, I can't, or at least it puts a price on it. There's a big penalty. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to lose. So do I want to lose? I think twice about it. So I think that's a big factor too. But that's why when I look at the ratios, I'm just like, I want to see Pulsechain launch first. I want to see how things shake out on that side and how all the amazing projects do. Hopefully no hiccups there. Everything goes well. And then I'll start setting things up to be like, okay, here's my 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and set it, forget it. Do all the things I want to do in real life, and just know crypto's taking care of me while I sleep. That's what I want.
Absolutely. I don't think you could have, said much more. That was perfect. I think we had a wonderful conversation on Pulsechain and PulseX. Before we wrap up here, there's just one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's your local Seattle or Washington Hex community. I know building community is really important to me. I've seen what you guys are doing up there, so I feel like it's equally important to you guys. How is it that you are able to continue the growth of your community on the local level? Like, what are you guys doing, and what kind of advice can you give to other communities looking to kind of grow on a local level?
Yeah, we the North. We're the Pacific North, at least. It's I stole that from Toronto. Always makes you think of them, the Raptors. So yeah, it's been since I started hanging out with the guys and stuff up here. It's grew even from that, I think, because there was another group too. There was like a Seattle focus group, and then there's a broader group that Valley Brand started. So we've been trying to have events once a month. We've been trying to, we always get them all once a month, but like we have like indoor skydiving coming up soon. We go out to dinner. I think just it's so much better once you see people in real life and you get to hang out. That's what I love about meetups, like the bigger meetups too, going to PulseCon, going to Hexpo and all this stuff. I love those because, you get to develop these relationships and get to talk to people, and you get to just hang out with people that you have a common interest in, and you share things. And I feel like our group has been growing. I feel like we've been adding at least one person every few weeks or so. There's somebody new that comes in the Telegram, and then they start coming to meetups, and then maybe they bring friends or family, and it just helps grow things at a local level. and it keeps people interested. That's the biggest thing is there, especially during a bear market. It's so important because during a bear market, a lot of people feel like crap. They see their investment. They know what they bought it at. They know where it is now, and maybe they put too much in, or maybe they need that money or whatever. But if you're able to, go to dinner with people or go to events and go bowling and whatever it is, you're able to kind of, it's almost like this implicit, like it's going to be okay. Like we're all in this together. You're not the only one kind of thing. So I think that's the most uplifting thing is like, if you start hanging out with people in real life, just this like human nature thing of like, you just feel better about a lot of decisions you're making. And that can go in the bad way too. You start hanging out with people, unhealthy decisions or unhealthy crypto communities or whatever, it can keep you in those longer too. But for our community, having these local meetups is really, it's really helped a lot of people stick around and help people just know that like how cool the community is, like how you can just interact with people that you see streaming. People come up to me, I haven't been streaming that long, but they're like, oh, I love your streams. I love your content. What's your stuff? I'm like, this is like, that gets me hyped up too. So that's cool. So yeah, I think our local meetups have been growing. I think the key, if I have any advice to give, is just try to be consistent. Like I think once a month or once every 2 months, and getting everyone together as much as you can just keeps the consistency going. You get the pictures, you get the videos, you get the events, you get the good feels, like all that stuff. I think the consistency is key to keeping people in the community. And this is a community we want people to stay in, and we want them to stay in for 15 years, right? We got the 5-5-5-5 going on.
Absolutely. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming and joining me today. That was a great conversation. My stream is not a long stream. I don't intend to ever hold anybody. We are all very, very busy people, but I appreciate your time and your knowledge of the space. And we'll have you back sometime soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just shout out to you and KSB TV and everyone doing all these meetups and media events and just all the stuff you all do for education too. And the crews and all that stuff. It's really cool to see, Hexicans get together, either going to either local groups or going somewhere else to have fun. Super cool stuff. So I always love seeing you all get together too. And I'll have to meet you one day. I'll have to do a meetup somewhere someday. It'd be cool.
Absolutely. I already kind of let the cat out the bag that I am coordinating RG3's tour. And so we will be making a stop this year in Seattle. Yes, so we will definitely, awesome. We will definitely be in contact with the Washington Hexicans and try and get you guys involved as much as we possibly can. So
definitely, we would love to have you all. If nothing else, whatever event's going on that you all want to do, but we can all go to dinner or do some event that we can host you at as well. It'd be great. Yeah, definitely let us know.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for being here. Thank you guys in the chat for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah. See you, everyone.